Held on the 1st of March and taking place during DMU's Cultural Exchanges Festival, Media Bomb hosted a panel of 5 media and cultural industry professionals. Here, the panel are discussing print and digital media.
And we've had a question here specifically about working in the print industry. Anybody here looking to work in the print industry?
Where do you think the money is going to be in the print industry if everything goes digital, basically? With newspapers mainly.
I can only tell you from a citizen journalism point of view. We had a page every Thursday or Friday in the Mercury for about 15 months, up to about 12 months ago, and then they pulled that funding. They paid us to do that. Yeah. It's now since become your charity page, but it was community news, and they retained me and one of our volunteers to do that. And that was his first piece of paid work, if you like, from volunteering with us. As our role in the Media Trust's Local 360 project, there are 30 beacon hubs of citizens journalism, of which Citizens Eye was the first 12 months ago in the UK. We're finding more and more now that people who have set up online news sites or blogs to cover where they live are looking at setting up newspapers using the newspaperclub.com website or websites similar. So I think they print like the Daily Star and the Daily Mirror, and then out of hours they print like newspapers, and you might have seen some about Citizens Eye for last November's Community Media Week and Doc Film. But what they're finding is that people will not pay to advertise on their blog, their local news blog, but they will still pay to advertise in a newspaper, probably because there is no newspaper that exists where they live, because they've all shut. You know, if you follow Twitter or any of those things, they're all shutting. So suddenly what can happen is the reason you can actually have a funded, sustainable online news presence is the fact that you are printing a good old-fashioned newspaper that people can find out about. So I think it's still about taking opportunities to work in local newspapers if they exist, and I think I would certainly be the first at the front line, if you like, if the Mercury was to shut, because I think it would be tragic. They still have a role to play in holding people to account, as their definition is, the City Council and things like that, because we're very much about reporting on the things that don't get reported on. So I don't think newspapers are dead, but then again, I don't think it's necessarily going to be sorted out in the next 10, 15, 20 years. Everything's kind of changing.
Yeah, I mean, traditionally newspapers were kept alive by the advertising in them, not the actual cover cost. I mean, that was just a cherry on the top. And as advertising revenues have dropped in papers, you see a lot of them struggling, a lot of them falling down. But at the end of the day, these are big monolithic organisations, and they need to stay alive, and they will find ways, whether they stop doing print editions or whatever they do, they will still be here in 10 years. They just won't look like what they are now. I mean, you can see the Guardian's desperately trying to find a way to bring revenue on digitally. They're not entirely succeeding yet, but they will get there.
I feel that we are at this moment in time on a cusp of a new digital age. I think everyone is hanging on for dear life. Yeah, I'm
move forward.
I'm taking your note. I'm going to start pushing from dusk to dawn in a bit. Sell. You've got two industries. You've got a rising industry and you've got a declining industry, and it's inevitable that one's going to get to a certain point. And I think people are tinkering now and knowing that there is no way back. I think this will happen when vinyl went to tapes, when tapes went to CDs, and CDs went to MP3s. We're finding that in publishing now. There's a change around, and Murdoch knows it. He's jumped on it. He's moving a lot of his papers now to tablets. And as these things get lighter, as these things get bigger, we're going to use these more and more and more and more. This isn't a fad. These aren't going to go tomorrow. This Christmas was the year of the tablet. And I think as these get lighter and as you guys get older, unfortunately, the older people that maybe read the Mercury in 10, 15, 20 years' time aren't going to be about. But the people that are using these, that are going to be. So it's inevitable that this is where it's going, and I think the quicker that you can invest in this technology and understand where it's going now, the more money that you can make, I think.
Trevor?
Yeah, as a magazine editor, I look at this stuff day in and day out, and get, all the newsletters coming in from all over the world and top media outlets. My prediction, and I put this on my blog recently, is if you come back in 20 years' time, you won't be able to go to the Smiths and see a big shelf full of paper-based magazines and newspapers. You'll be looking in highly specialised niche shops for something which is only for people that like reading print. It may not be the case with books, but most media and most journalists are going to be working in a digital environment over the next 20 years. The graph for newspapers and magazines is going down by the same rate as digital is going up. The only thing I'd like to sort of add into that, and it does relate back to something that was being talked about earlier on, is the standard of writing. Journalism is about being able to write, and I've seen stuff that DMU students and other university students have written for me, and I think, have these people actually been taught to write English correctly through primary, secondary, college? It is a skill, and I think it's a skill that's very, very important. And I think being able to write well, clearly, and use English properly is absolutely important. And I spend a lot of time editing stuff which is sent to me and having to correct numerous grammatical and spelling mistakes. Let's say that I'm 100% perfect, as you probably know. I make mistakes as well, but I have to correct an awful lot of stuff that comes into me, and I think that's a big issue for the writing industry.
Being as he never mentioned his name, that's Trevor Locke from Arts in Leicestershire, and if you're interested in covering any of the events or doing any arts or culture related writing like museums or reviews or things like De Montfort Hall, Trevor's the guy to go to. Okay.
You've been listening to a soundbite from Media Bomb 2013. To find out more, go to facebook.com/MediaBomb.